The government of Zimbabwe remains dedicated to food security in the food and nutrition cluster for our population here in Zimbabwe as we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030 as a country. We are talking of nutrition, whereby we are saying a balanced diet consists of the carbohydrates and as well the protein component, which comes through as we are discussing the piggery project here in Zimbabwe. Today we have taken the liberty of coming to the Pig Industry Board here in Achura's 27-kilometer peg away from the Harare city center. We are going to be looking at the general maintenance of a piggery project for our farmers there in Zimbabwe. I understand that most of Zimbabwean women did benefit from piggery projects being availed by the government to our populations to ensure that everyone has enough in terms of food. Thank you, viewers, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, a platform where everyone converges. Zimbabwe is an agro-based economy, and each and everyone in Zimbabwe should participate to ensure that we all have enough and we are all well fed as we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030 of becoming an upper middle class economy. Today, in this particular episode, we are joined by Mr. Tamo Musa. He is the head of training and extension services here at the Pig Industry Board right here in Zimbabwe. Mr. Musa, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Wazi.
Yes. This episode is very important because we are talking about issues surrounding eating, feeding of the nation, where we are saying everyone should have access to both the carbohydrate component and also the protein component. We are talking of pigs, piggery management. As we get into our discussion, Mr. Musa, in general, what does it entail having a piggery project? Beginning from the infrastructure, the resources that you need to gather as a farmer, what does it take for you to be an adequate pig producer in Zimbabwe?
Okay, Wazi, this piggery project is a capital-intensive, project where you need the resources to construct pens. You need quite a substantial amount of money, and also you need money for the breeding stock itself, because for example, each gilt will cost $350. Okay. And the boar is costing $375. But ideally, you need one boar for 15 females. Okay. But look at that amount. It's quite a lot. It's quite involving. And also, if you consider the feed itself that you need to be feeding these animals, you need like 5 to 5.5 tons per sow per year. Okay. And that feed is enough to take care of the mother and also the 2 liters that is going to give you. And we can work with approximately about 20 to 24 pigs benefiting from that allocation. And also the same amount is going to be, a small portion is going to be deducted for the welfare of the boar. So you need quite some amount in order to be running such a project. And over and above that, you need somebody who has got the passion in the whole program. Okay. If you've got that passion, you can do it, better. You can do it, in an excellent way, because we want to produce this piggery project is about efficiency. If you are not efficient in producing pigs, then you will not go anywhere. Okay. And when I'm talking about efficiency, I'm talking about the number of pigs that you are going to be able to market from each mother. So you need to have as many of those as possible.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Musa. You spoke of feed, where you were saying one sow, which is a female that is going to produce piglets, on average should have around 5 to 5 tons of feed per year, so that it farrows twice.
Yes.
Yes. I want us to talk about the feed conversion ratios. You would find that most of our Zimbabwean farmers would get their sow and their boar from a reputable source. But in the end, you would find panzi. Okay. And it speaks to the burden that comes with feed. In terms of feed, what are your sentiments, or what would you want to say to our viewers there at home, and in terms of their component, the nutritional component of the feed, to ensure that the pigs are healthy?
Okay. Ideally, if you do them right, you always get the best benefit from whatever input you put in the project.
Okay.
So what happens is we expect each kg of pork that we are going to get is supposed to be raised from 3 to 3.6 to about 4.2 kgs of feed.
So per kg of meat,
right,
okay, just to reiterate on that,
yes,
a kg of meat is derived from about 4.2 kilograms of feed.
Yes, yes.
Okay, those are the feed conversion ratios that I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
So if the farmer goes beyond 4.2, then we know that the farmer is not going to make any profit at all, because the cost of feed then generally is about 80 to 85% of the running costs.
Okay.
So if once you go beyond 4.2 kgs, we know that your feed cost is going to be very high, and as a result, the net profit that we are going to be getting becomes smaller and smaller as we increase the feed conversion ratio.
Okay.
So you need to be within the confines of the project. Yes.
Is it possible for a farmer to establish a station where he can produce his own feed, say from his maize or from his soya beans or from his husks, crop husks? Is it possible? And maybe can you enlighten our audience in terms of the requirements to produce proper feed that matches the same standards of those that we acquire from different shops? Is it possible for a farmer to improvise and produce his own feed personally?
Yes, let me first of all say all these registered stock feed companies, they are monitored by the Standards Association of Zimbabwe. Okay. So there we are guaranteed that you are getting proper feed, quality feed.
Okay.
But we are saying if you rely on that kind of feed, it's very expensive.
Yes.
If the farmer can make his or her own feed at the farm, that will be much better. And the advantage that we have at the moment is we have some stock feed companies that are producing what we call vitamin mineral premixes. Okay. So that the small packs which are rich in vitamins and minerals.
Okay.
So what the farmer now needs is to just procure soybean meal and the energy source, which can be your maize, sorghum, millet. All these can be used as energy sources. Okay. So if you compound your own feed at the farm, it becomes very cheap, because normally farmers grow their maize, they grow sorghum,
soya beans,
they grow finger millet, and they grow even soybean. If they don't have, they can even buy. And when you buy from the same people that sell to the stock feed companies, you still have an advantage, because you don't incur the cost that you meet when you buy it from the stock feed companies.
Okay.
So you avoid that markup they make by formulating the feed themselves.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Musa. As we round off this segment, Mr. Musa, I would like us to talk about in case, are there scenarios whereby you would say this farmer is overfeeding his pork, his pigs, or he's underfeeding? What is the case scenario here in terms of those circumstances arising? What could be the cause of that?
In terms of the growers, I'm referring to these pigs that we send for slaughter. Okay. These are growers. There is no overfeeding. There is no one. There can be only underfeeding and no overfeeding. Okay. We want them to get as much feed as possible, so that you push them through within a short space of time. Okay. Overfeeding only happens when you talk of these mothers that we are looking at. Okay. The mothers, they need to be restricted to a certain extent, especially when they are pregnant. If you overfeed them, it means come the time of farrowing, they will have these big piglets, and they will not be able to deliver. Oh, so that's where you find cases of dystocia. That means the piglet is now bigger than the birth canal.
There you heard it, viewers. We are talking of the general management of a piggery enterprise. Mr. Musa here was talking to us in terms of the feed that these pigs require. When we are talking of a farrowing sow, we are saying that it requires 2 kilograms of feed per day, but also to the suckling piglets, you will need to put in half a kg per every suckling piglet. On that note, we are going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions. We were talking of the feed regimen in the segment prior to this one. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with me, the producer, Wadzanai Manyore, on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. You can make a follow-up on this episode and more. We are constantly uploading on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on Twitter, and our Twitter handle there is at Agribusiness110. This is whereby most of the questions that may arise from this episode are answered on our Twitter handle. Now, earlier on, before we went to the break, Mr. Musa, you were telling us of the feed requirements per sow, even per boar, and even the piglets. Now, I want us to talk about the most critical issue when it comes to management of pigs. Diseases and sometimes pests, which can be a nuisance to our pigs. We understand that we have sows, we have the boars, we have the piglets, we have the gilts, and all of these are attacked differently by different diseases. There are diseases that might cause miscarriages, there are diseases that might cause high mortality rates in the piglets or even in the sows. The disease may even spread and cause a farmer to have huge losses. I want us to talk about those, starting from the sows going down to the piglets.
Yes, Wadzi, sows are mostly affected by parvovirus. And this is a common disease in pigs, and this disease actually results in stillborns and mummified piglets. And mummified piglets are those that die before they are mature. And the stillborn are mature, but they come out dead. And some losses actually take place also during the embryonic stage development. You know, embryos will die between day 1 and day 34. So those just die and dissolve. You don't see anything coming out, but they simply disappear. And the same disease can result in actually infertility. So that, you know, the sows will not even conceive after service. So this disease is very common, and that's why you hear farmers talking more about farrowing. That is a parvovirus vaccine. And once it's injected 2 weeks before the sow is serviced, then you are done. Most of the time it's well controlled. Then the same disease affects even boars. So you vaccinate both sows and boars, so that that disease is under control all the time. And the sows, soon after farrowing, that is within the first 3 days, you can have also a disease that is common, which is called MMA. MMA, these are abbreviations for mastitis, metritis, and agalactia. This disease is a bacterial disease which actually results in the inflammation of the udder, and the milk will not be able to come out, and the sow will actually emit some foul, some discharges. And yes, so this is because of this disease. And once we have this disease, the piglets will not be able to suckle because the mother will not produce any milk. So you quickly come in with your antibiotics. And once you inject with your antibiotic, you then come in with the oxytocin, which is the milk let down hormone. Yes, so that, you know, you quickly the milk production can resume. Yes, so this is very common. And also we have one other important disease called cystitis. Cystitis is a disease that infects the sows during service.
Okay.
It can be natural service or artificial insemination. So once you push in bacteria into the uterus, it results in this cystitis, whereby you see the sow will bring out blood-stained urine.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
And sometimes you can see some discharges, pus coming out through the vulva. So that is the infection that you get during the service. Right?
Okay.
So this is all about sow. There are many more, like mange, you know. We actually regularly spray these sows with a dip, so that you can do away with the external parasites.
Okay.
Yes, and also even internal parasites, we do the deworming, so that you know these sows will not contaminate the piglets.
Okay.
Right. But when we come over to these piglets now, the piglets are very prone to diarrhea. Okay. So we guard against diarrhea, and the first thing that we do to protect the piglets is to vaccinate the sows using Litagard. Litagard is an E. coli vaccine,
okay,
which is meant to promote antibodies, so that you know the antibodies will be consumed by the piglets through the first milk that comes out,
yes,
which is colostrum. And that colostrum, if the sow is injected with this Litagard, it will be rich in antibodies,
okay,
so that you know piglets will not be prone to this kind of disease, right? And also the piglets, when they are born, you find that you know some of them can be very small, and once you find that you know they are smaller than the normal size. Normal size is 1.4 to 1.6 kgs.
Okay.
That's weight. So if they are smaller than that, you can actually come up with this pig boost, which you just squeeze into the mouth of the piglet to boost the energy. And also this is rich in vitamins and some basic vitamin B12, which is very useful for the piglet.
Okay.
So once you give them this pig boost, you know, they will have more energy than enough energy to suckle.
Okay.
Be able to suckle without any problem.
Okay.
Then the same piglets, soon after birth, they are very prone to anemia, which is shortage of
blood, iron in blood.
Yes. So it's critical that you know every farmer will have this kind of iron injection.
Okay.
This is the Intrafed 200.
Okay.
You can have it as Iron Jet, Ferrovet. You know, any companies will just have it.
And how is it administered to the piglets?
This you inject it 1 ml per
piglet.
Per piglet.
Okay.
Yes. So it's just 1 ml per piglet, and you inject it just behind the ear there.
Okay.
Yes, and you use very small needles. Needle number 21.
Okay.
We call them gauge 21.
Okay.
Yes. So it's a very small thin needle. That's what we use to inject these piglets. Okay. So we protect them against anemia, and also we guard against these scours, because as they grow, the piglets are very susceptible to bacteria. So the bacteria can trigger these scours, so you need to constantly guard against that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Musa. There you heard it, viewers. Mr. Musa here was telling us of the various diseases that can be a nuisance when it comes to production in the piggery enterprise. On that note, we are going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers. We are in the third and final segment of your program. Earlier on, we were talking of, in the first segment, we were talking of the feed regimens, the requirements of feed when it comes to pig reproduction. And just now, before we went to the break, we were talking of the various diseases that attack various pigs at different stages. Now, Mr. Musa, we are in the third and final segment. There is an issue surrounding infertility in pigs. How is it best dealt with? Is there a remedy to infertility? How do you deal with it?
There is infertility, which is caused by parvovirus.
Okay.
Yes, and also which could be management. If you don't treat your animals well, they fail to conceive.
Okay.
So those are management issues. But there is actually fertility problems, whereby you find some sows are always giving small litters.
Okay.
And yet probably they are just given the same care, the same service and everything else. But you find that they are giving you very small litters. So under such circumstances, what we do is, when selecting your breeding stock, you aim to select from the lot or from the litters that were big, or that it's like sows, will give you litters that are well above 12 or 13, whatever. So these are the same litters from which we select breeding stock. Okay. So that we know there is a core-relationship with the performance of the mother and also the performance of the piglets. Okay. So that's how we address these fertility problems. Just make sure you get your breeding stock from the big litters. Okay. Yes. Okay. And it's one way of stepping up addressing the fertility problem. Okay. Yes. Now,
Mr. Musa, there is a general conception that the boar is more expensive to acquire and to maintain than the rest of the pigs in terms of either the sow or the gilts or the piglets. They say that the boar is generally very costly when it comes to maintaining it in terms of feed or taking care of. Is it true? And what are the factors that lead to that?
No, it's not true, unless probably people are talking about the value of the boar. Okay. Being more than the value of the mother. Okay. Yes, because the boar is actually responsible for 15 females. Okay. So it means if you consider the contribution of the boar in terms of genetics, it's worth half the head. Okay. And yet the mother is just going to give you about 22 pigs. Whereas the boar will give you more than 300 pigs per annum. Okay. So that's why the boar has got more value than the female. But in terms of maintenance, as long as you have got the right number of sows, it's not going to be a problem, because normally the boar will just consume 2 kgs per day for 365 days, which works out to 730 kgs. So if you are giving it the right number of sows, it means the contribution of each piglet is going to be very small, that you are going to deduct towards maintenance of the father. Okay. So it's not a big issue at all. But if you have got very few animals, very few sows, then you can be talking about the boar being very expensive to maintain. Okay. Yes. Now, Mr. Musa, we've come to the end of this episode. I want us to talk about issues around profitability, the lucrativeness of this business. It's quite a number of things that are involved. First and foremost is to make sure that you feed the right type of feed to the right class. Because normally people just feed all the animals with the pig grower concentrate. Yes. And that pig grower concentrate is meant for growers. Okay. So the mothers and the boars, they've got their own ration, which is much cheaper than that of the growers. Okay. Right? So if you just make it same thing, the same feed, one size fits all. Yes, it becomes very expensive. Yes. So that's where you need to address, and also you need to be monitoring, to be managing your feed properly, because farmers lose a lot through wastage. Yeah, you have got your rodents, you don't control rodents, and they take quite a big chunk from your feed. Okay. You don't control even wastage. People, when they are carrying bags in the unit, they just spill, those spillages contribute quite a lot to wastages. And yet whatever you are you are losing out through that practice. It's part of the cost that you are going to meet when you market your pigs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Musa. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Sure. Thanks so much, Wendy.
There you had it, viewers. I was with Mr. Tamo Musa. He is the head of Education and Extension Services here at the Pig Industry Board. He was taking us through the general management of a piggery enterprise and to ensure that you make profits as you do your day-to-day operations and your day-to-day runnings. From me, Wadzanai Manyore, I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.